Hello everybody and welcome back. It is time. It is time for one of the debates you've been looking forward to. Is Flat Earth a cult or not? You'll notice we don't have name tags for people, but that's my fault because, you know, reasons. Technical issues. Yeah, it's because I know, listen, I did the best that I could. We're a little bit finagly in here, but that's okay. We gotta finagle things sometimes. I am Chesh, your master debater. I've got with me Chris, and I have with me Craig, FTFE, and they're here to debate, is Flat Earth a cult? Now, you guys will notice that there is a question for you guys. There's a poll whether or not you think Flat Earth is a cult. We're going to ask that at the beginning, and then we're going to ask it again at the end of the stream, because I want to know if there's been any changes in the needle for you guys. Now, this is a friendly debate, and I want everybody to be aware right now, right out the gate, nobody on the panel thinks the Earth is flat. Nobody is arguing in favor of Flat Earth, okay? Nobody thinks the Earth is fucking flat. That's not happening. That's not what this debate is about. Nobody is trying to help the Flat Earthers by saying that they are or are not a cult. There is no attempt here to assist Flat Earthers, so you're all good. We're all good. I will say that the poll right now is currently at 71% say yes, the Flat Earth is a cult. 17% say no, Flat Earth is not a cult, and 12% say unsure. I will ask again, if you do have any questions that you want to ask any of our guests, please tag at DebateHubOfficial, so that way I will make sure that I see the question that you want to ask. And thank you so much if you are a member. We are monetized now, so if you send super chats or you're a member, greatly appreciated. There's going to be extra stuff available for you whenever you feel like going to check out that junk. There's also a Patreon, which I should probably remember to link eventually. I'll probably remember to do that one day. And it is all, this entire thing is only available because you guys do it. There are no ads here. There's no sponsorships. It just is what it is. But let's allow both of these guys to introduce themselves. They're going to get 10 minutes apiece. Well, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then start the timers. I'm not going to start the timers including, like, who are you? Oh, sorry. My bad. Is my intro going too long? All right. Get in here. Craig, you want to go first? You want to introduce yourself? Yeah, goof. Wait. Hold on. Audio issue on my end. Hold on. Let me fix this. Wait. Button. People can't hear Craig. I got this. Hold on. Try now.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, yes. Hello everyone. I am Craig McNeil, otherwise known as FTFE. I spend my time debating, shall we say, the lower IQ side of humanity. If you think about how dumb the average person is, then remember that half the world is dumber than that, and take the bottom 5%, and that's flat earthers, and that's who I normally speak to. So I'm actually quite excited for debates like this, where I get to speak to someone who is obviously an intelligent person. So yeah, this should be fun and friendly. You know, I'll try not to release FTFE. If you don't know about me, I have 2 degrees, one in physics, one in nuclear engineering, energy systems, and fission technologies. I'm an ex-nuclear engineer in the military, and I was a wind farm developer for Enetrag in Scotland, helping set up the majority of the infrastructure for wind farm technology in Scotland.
That's really cool. Chris, who are you?
My name is Chris Shelton, and I am a cult survivor and person who has invested deeply in the world of cults since I escaped Scientology in 2013, so 13 years ago. And I have written a book, well, you can see it behind me, about Scientology. And I have written a book that I just released a couple weeks ago about cult recovery called What Now? A Practical Guide to Life After a Cult. So this is my wheelhouse, my world, and what I study and research and talk about all day.
It's exciting. We have 2 people who are, 1, honest interlocutors, which is a nice start, 2 who are well-versed in their respective fields, and 3 people who are both already interested in the topic and what's going on. So we're going to flip a coin or roll a dice, unless somebody wants to volunteer to go first.
Well, I'm as Chris is the affirmative. Well, I guess he's saying that it's not. Maybe he should go first. I don't mind either way.
I'm kind of keen to go second. I'm keen to hear what you have to say.
That's cool.
All right.
If you'd rather I go first, I'm happy to go first.
All right. Go for it, Craig. We're going to let him go first. There is 10 minutes on the clock. Unfortunately, we're not going to get my fancy little transition right now because I'm just annoyed at VMix, which is fine for being a dick. But 3, 2, 1, go!
Hello everyone, right, so tonight's question is Flat Earth a cult? And before the flirts start screeching into the webcams like someone drop-kicked a Furby into a microwave, let me be clear. I'm not saying that every flat earther lives in a compound, wears matching robes and waits for David Weiss to descend from the firmament on a mobility scooter made of bullshit. That's not my claim. My claim is very simple. Flat Earth behaves like a cult-like conspiracy movement. Not always formally, not legally, not one with a leader, one temple, and a choir singing Water Finds Its Level in B minor. But in behavior, absolutely. One useful way to look at cult-like behavior is the BITE model: behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. And Flat Earth doesn't fit every part perfectly because it's a decentralized internet conspiracy, not a compound in the woods. But it shows enough of the pattern that we should stop pretending it's just harmless questioning. Let's start with information control. Flat Earthers love saying, do your own research. But they don't mean research. They mean ignore schools, universities, pilots, engineers, surveyors, astronomy, navigation, satellites, measurements, and maths, then listen to some bloke on YouTube who thinks perspective is a magical dragon that eats the bottom of boats. That isn't independent thinking. That isn't intellectual inbreeding. That is intellectual inbreeding. Real research means following evidence even when it kicks your favorite belief directly in the teeth. Flat Earth does the opposite. It starts with a conclusion, Earth is flat, and builds a paranoid pillow fort around it. Photos from space? Fake. Videos from space? CGI. Rocket launches? Obviously holograms. Pilots? Lying. Scientists? Paid. Maths? Some kind of satanic wizardry, obviously. At some point, it stops being skepticism. It's just being wrong with stamina. Then you've got thought control. Flat Earth uses loaded language to stop people thinking clearly. You're not someone who accepts basic astronomy, you're a glober. You're not someone who understands physics, you're indoctrinated. You're not asking for evidence, you're a NASA shill. You're not correcting them, you're defending the heliocentric religion. It's toddler level word magic. They label you so they don't have to answer you. If I'm a shill, then they don't need to explain why their map turns Australia into a crime scene. If evidence is CGI, then they just don't have to deal with it. If experts are paid liars, they never have to learn anything. And that isn't debate, it's a defense mechanism with Wi-Fi. Emotional control. Flat Earth tells people they're awake, special, chosen, smarter than scientists, brave enough to see what the sheep cannot. And that's the hook. Instead of learning physics, astronomy, optics, surveying, navigation, or why the sun doesn't shrink into a tiny dot like a Poundland magic trick, they skip straight to feeling superior. No exams, no maths, no qualifications, just paranoia and a YouTube playlist. Flat Earth gives people a shortcut to feeling clever. And once that becomes part of your identity, leaving hurts. Leaving doesn't just mean I was wrong about the globe. It means I accused innocent people of lying, I rejected obvious evidence, I trusted idiots over experts, and I made being wrong part of who I was. And that's why so many of them doubled down. And that brings us to the clearest cult-like behavior of all. What happens when one of their own changes their mind? A healthy movement rewards honesty. A cult-like movement pushes being an apostate. Look at Jaren Campanella, Jarenism. For years, flat earthers said the 24-hour Antarctic sun was impossible. They said footage was fake. They said Antarctica was locked down. They said the treaty stopped you going there. Then people, including Jaren, went. They saw it. They filmed it. They live streamed it. Jaren was there. And he did the one thing Flat Earth absolutely cannot tolerate. He admitted he was wrong. In science, that's honesty. In Flat Earth, that is betrayal. He didn't get praised for following the evidence. He got attacked, compromised, controlled opposition, shill, traitor, the usual Flat Earth bingo card of brain rot. He went to Antarctica, saw the sun stay up for 24 hours, and parts of the Flat Earth community treated him like he'd walked into a church wearing a Satan had a point t-shirt. That is cult-like behavior, because when your movement punishes someone for accepting direct observation, you're not running a truth movement. You're running a thought prison for people who failed geography and made it everybody else's problem. Now, behavior control in Flat Earth isn't usually you must live here and wear this robe. It's social behavior control. Stay inside the bubble, share approved content, mock outsiders, distrust experts, repeat the slogans, don't admit doubt. And if someone leaves, treat them like they sold their soul for a NASA lanyard and a packet of astronomy ice cream. Flat Earth doesn't need one pope, it doesn't need one temple, and it doesn't need matching robes. Modern cult-like movements can be decentralized. They can be held together by algorithms, live streams, shared enemies, social pressure, and the desperate need to feel smarter than people who actually know what they're talking about. So is Flat Earth a cult? Not always in the formal legal compound in the woods sense, but as cult-like conspiracy ecosystem, hell yes. It shows information control by poisoning trust in every source outside the bubble. It shows thought control through loaded language and thought-stopping cliches. It shows emotional control by making people feel chosen and terrified of being fooled. And it shows behavior control through loyalty tests, social punishment, and shunning people who leave. It's not science, it's not skepticism, it's not independent thought. The globe is not hard to prove. Sticks and shadows, ships, flights, star trails, time zones, navigation, satellites, the 24-hour Antarctica sun. Flat Earth survives not because the evidence is weak, it survives because the social trap is strong. Without the paranoia, the group identity, the shit accusations, and the fear of being excommunicated, the whole thing collapses faster than the flurf trying to explain Southern Hemisphere flight paths. So my position is simple. Flat Earth is a cult-like conspiracy movement that protects idiots from the horror of learning something. And when your entire worldview can be destroyed by a sunset, a pendulum, a telescope, Antarctica, and a child holding a globe, maybe the problem isn't NASA. Maybe your truth movement is about as robust as a chocolate teapot in a volcano.
No.
That's awesome.
Very well done. You still had 3 minutes on the clock. Pretty good. You did say 8 minutes, so pretty good.
Yeah, I did trim. My original script, I repeated things a bunch, and I didn't want to do that. So.
Yeah, fair enough. You don't want to get too repetitive sometimes. Well done, everybody. Clap. Claps in the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. All right, Chris, you're up. You got 10 minutes on the board. Are you ready?
All right. Let's do this thing.
All right, go ahead.
See if I can get through my opening in 10 minutes. All right, here we go. Can you hear me? Are we all good?
You're good.
Okay, here we go. I want to begin by defining terms clearly, because this debate becomes impossible if we use the word cult merely as an insult for beliefs we think are irrational. I study destructive cults, and in my work, a destructive cult is not defined primarily by what people believe. It is defined by systems of authoritarian control and psychological codependency. That's a really key word. Groups exist on a spectrum of authority and coercion. The key issue is not whether a belief is bizarre, conspiratorial, pseudoscientific, or religious. If we defined any group that had goofball beliefs as a cult, then any group could be called that, because anyone can accuse anyone of having goofball beliefs. And if everything is a cult, then nothing is a cult. So the key issue is whether a group uses those beliefs to dominate, isolate, exploit, or psychologically control people, not whether or not we judge their beliefs against what we think of as a yardstick of rationality. Flat Earth belief is certainly irrational. It is conspiratorial. It is frequently tied to biblical literalism, institutional distrust, anti-scientific thinking, and social alienation. But none of those things alone make something a destructive cult. If we apply actual cult analysis criteria, Flat Earth as a movement does not neatly fit the model. First, there is no centralized leadership structure. There's no equivalent of a David Miscavige, a Jim Jones, a Keith Raniere, or an L. Ron Hubbard directing a unified organization. There's no universally recognized prophet, no governing body, or chain of command. In fact, Flat Earth communities are notoriously fragmented. Different Flat Earthers accuse one another of being controlled opposition. They disagree on cosmology, theology, maps, astronomy, Antarctica, space travel, and often even the motives behind the supposed conspiracy itself. Some are deeply Christian, some are New Age, some are generic anti-government conspiracy theorists, some appear motivated mainly by contrarianism or online identity. The fragmentation is the opposite of what we usually see in high-control cult systems. Second, there is no consistent mechanism of coercive behavioral control. Destructive cults regulate members' lives. They control relationships, sexual behavior, finances, housing, employment, access to information, and contact with outsiders. And Flat Earth generally does not do those things. Most Flat Earthers continue to live ordinary lives embedded in normal society. They work jobs, maintain families, consume mainstream media, and move freely between communities. You do not generally see systemic isolation from non-believers. You do not see organized communal living. You do not see forced labor. You do not see mandatory financial exploitation. And you do not see centralized punishment systems for dissent. Yes, online harassment exists. Yes, social pressure exists. But social pressure exists in nearly every ideological community on Earth. The fact that people get weird, extreme, or passionate online is not an indication of a cult, but merely that someone is very invested in that topic. Third, Flat Earth is fundamentally decentralized, and this is crucial. What we're really looking at is closer to a networked conspiracy subculture than a destructive cult organization. Modern research increasingly describes Flat Earth as part of a broader post-truth ecosystem built around distrust of institutions and alternative epistemologies. In other words, the movement is less about one leader demanding obedience and more about a collective rejection of institutional authority itself. NASA lies, governments lie, scientists lie, academia lies, media lies. That mindset is conspiratorial, but conspiratorial thinking and cult structure are not identical concepts. Fourth, the motivations for joining Flat Earth are diverse. Some arrive through religion, others through political distrust. Sometimes people are just lonely and are online seeking community. Destructive cults usually narrow identity around a unified mission and authority structure. Flat Earth doesn't really do that consistently. If anything, Flat Earth often acts as a gateway or connective tissue between other conspiratorial communities rather than functioning as a coherent cult itself. Now, to be fair, and certainly as gone over, there are cult-like tendencies inside the Flat Earth culture. There can be intense in-group versus out-group thinking, hostility towards dissent, social reinforcement loops, paranoid worldviews, identity fusion, charismatic influencers, and deep epistemic isolation. Those are real phenomena, but cult-like traits are not sufficient by themselves to classify an entire movement as a destructive cult. Sports fandoms can display cult-like traits. Political movements can display cult-like traits, and online activist communities often display cult-like traits. That does not automatically make them destructive cults. If we call every conspiracy movement simply a cult, we destroy nuance because we stop distinguishing between decentralized belief movements, ideological subcultures, conspiracy ecosystems, new religious movements, and actual coercive authoritarian systems. A person trapped in a coercive high-control organization may need exit counseling, family reconnection, financial recovery, and trauma treatment. A person believing Flat Earth may instead need media literacy, epistemological grounding, social reconnection, and restoration of institutional trust. Different paradigms are dealt with differently because they're not the same problem. Finally, I would argue Flat Earth is better understood as a symptom of broader societal forces which are driving a great deal of change in our societies around the world, including declining trust in institutions, as I mentioned, algorithm-driven echo chambers, loneliness, polarization, conspiratorial thinking, and the collapse of shared standards for determining truth, which has led to an epistemological collapse over the very concept of truth and its usefulness. If we want to analyze these phenomena responsibly, we need conceptual precision rather than using cult as a catch-all label for irrational belief or goofy behavior. That precision is exactly what allows cult experts to identify genuinely coercive systems when they actually appear. Because the term cult should not be used as an insult or a dog whistle to indicate you think those people are just stupid. Most of them are very far from stupid, actually. So, to conclude, Flat Earth is epistemically dysfunctional, but destructive cults are defined by coercive control, not merely false belief. And the codependency aspect of this between the leadership and the followers is something that just cannot be omitted when you're looking at a cult structure. So the Flat Earth movement as such is not a destructive cult. There you go.
Very well done. Everybody clap. That is, you had 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Good job, everybody. I am very clap, 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 clap. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I hope you guys are having a good time. I think both arguments have been very, very well formulated, very, very well presented, and I am looking forward. It is now time for our rebuttals. They're both getting, again, 10 minutes on the clock. Craig will get to go first, and then Chris. Once that is over, we'll open it up where they can ask each other questions and sort of poke and see if there's like, can you answer this part? Can you answer that part? Some of that I'm sure will come up in the rebuttals, but again, if you do have questions, I am keeping track of them and we will get to those then after they get their discussion time. So, Craig, are you ready?
Born ready.
Fantastic. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chris. It was very well put together intro. Couple of things I picked up in there. You kind of said that there's no behavior control within Flat Earth, which is obviously one of the main things that you use to define if it's a cult, and I entirely disagree. Behavior control isn't just like having a guard tower matching robes and someone called Brother Nathan checking your bedroom for contraband globes. In the bite model, behavior control includes things like rewards and punishments used to modify behavior, discouraging individualism, and encouraging groupthink, spending major time on self-indoctrination, including the internet, and controlling who members associate with or isolate from. It doesn't need like a rule book, and Flat Earth absolutely shows behavior control. Not usually physical behavior control, but social behavior control. For example, they pressure people to stay inside the bubble of Flat Earth. They reward people for repeating approved arguments. They punish doubt with mockery, shunning, and calling people shills. They discourage people from trusting outsiders. They attack former members, and they make people afraid to publicly admit that they were wrong. That is behavioral control via behavioral pressure. When Jeranism saw the 24-hour sun and admitted that he was wrong, the reaction wasn't "good job." It was "you're compromised, you're a shill," and some people actually called him the devil. And that is one of the things that cults that do it. That is behavior control, because the message to everyone is obvious. Don't do what Jeranism did. Don't admit doubt. Don't publicly change your mind. Don't leave the tribe. And that modifies your behavior. It tells members what is socially safe and what gets you punished. And kind of why Flat Earth is so pathetic, that they shout that they're free thinkers while all repeating the same slogans, watching Nathan Oakley smack his child on stream and using the same insults, dodging the same evidence, and panicking when someone breaks the script. So Flat Earth may not control behavior like a lockdown compound, but it absolutely controls behavior through social pressure, public punishment, in-group rewards, and fear of exclusion, which is what the bite model uses to kind of tell you what is behavior control. You mentioned about the decentralization of Flat Earth and how cults normally have a single leader, like Hubbard with Scientology and stuff, but it's different in the modern times. The advent of the internet has allowed cults to be decentralized while still holding the to the bite model of what a cult is. A decentralized movement can still have all insider language, purity tests, groupthink, social punishment, shunning, demonizing outsiders, punishing people who leave, and rewarding people who just repeat the approved nonsense. And that's exactly what Flat Earth does. There isn't one flat Earth Pope. There's several of them. There's no one just screaming, "Thou shalt call Jeranism a shill." The community just does it automatically, and that actually makes it more like a cult in my mind. It's not top-down cult control; it's peer-enforced cult control. The algorithm feeds it, live streams reinforce it, the comment sections on YouTube police it, and creators profit from it. And the audience punishes anyone who steps out of line. That's decentralized control. You're kind of acting like there needs to be a formal membership card for cults, some secret handshake, and Nathan Oakley standing at the door of a clipboard saying no globes allowed. But modern conspiracy movements don't need a temple. They have YouTube channels, Discord servers, live stream chats, Facebook groups, and parasocial weirdos screaming shill at anyone who accidentally learns something. And Flat Earth does it in such a way to control people in the same way that any formal cult does. So does Flat Earth use cult-like mechanisms to keep people inside the belief? Yes. And being decentralized, I don't think refutes that. It just explains how Flat Earth works as a cult. It's not a pyramid with one idiot at the top. It's a sewage sprinkler system of idiots spraying the same paranoia in every direction. Different nozzle, same shit. You then said that motivations are diverse for people that join Flat Earth. And yeah, nobody's claiming that every Flat Earther joined for the same reason. Some join because they distrust government, some because of religion, some because they're lonely, some because they want community, some because they failed maths, some because their parents met at a family reunion, some because conspiracy content like Flat Earth gave their life a villain and a purpose. But that doesn't refute it being a cult. People join actual cults for diverse reasons too. They want belonging, answers, certainty, spiritual meaning. They're vulnerable. They're angry at the world, and they think they've found some hidden truth. Motivations for joining any cult can be diverse. The mechanisms that keep them in the cult are what makes it a cult. So did every Flat Earther join for the same reason? No, but once they're inside the movement, they are exposed to the same cult-like mechanism that you get from any formal mainstream cult that we all recognize. They're told outsiders are lying. They're told experts can't be trusted. They're given insider labels like Glober and Shill, and they're rewarded for repeating group claims, punished socially for doubt, attacked if they leave, and trained to reinterpret all contradictory evidence as fake. One of the first things that a cult does is call everybody else a liar, and that is the Flat Earth playbook. Not everyone joins Scientology for the same reason. So your argument would suggest that Scientology can't be a cult, but you know it is because you've been there. And then you said Flat Earth it is just a conspiracy movement, but it's not just a conspiracy movement. It is the pinnacle of conspiracy movements. It is the the gateway drug to everything else being fake. It says the entire structure of reality is fake. Most conspiracy theories are limited to, specific things like the JFK an assassination, 9/11. It was, it wasn't, there was no plane. They have one very specific claim, but Flat Earth is different because it requires total world conspiracy. For Flat Earth to work, every major knowledge producing system on Earth has to be corrupt or fake, or someone lying to you. Every teacher, every navigator, everyone understands science, everyone in power, everyone with a brain, they all have to be lying to you. All this technology has to be fake. They've lied to you about how the technology works. And it's the, it does what cults do and forces you to believe that that is the knowledge, and any knowledge from outside is just false and lies and heresy. Because once you believe that much of the world is fake, you can't just distrust one institution. You have to distrust everyone. A normal conspiracy theory just says that one story is false, but Flat Earth says that all knowledge about the world is false, and anyone who disagrees is either stupid, brainwashed, lying, paid, or evil. That makes it isolating. It makes it an identity hook, and it makes it a cult. I think that was the things I picked up. Oh, you talked about coercive behavior as well. And I think that Flat Earth definitely has coercive behavior. because coercion doesn't have to mean physical. It can mean social, emotional, informational, reputational, financial, and Flat Earth does all of that. Flat Earth is coercive because it makes doubt socially expensive. Nobody has to put a gun to your head. The pressure is built into the group. If you question Flat Earth, you're not treated as someone thinking independently. You're called a shill, globy, controlled opposition, compromised, brainwashed, weak, or fake. If you accept evidence, you're not praised for honesty, you're accused of betrayal. If you leave, you don't lose an argument, you risk losing your community, your audience, your status, your income, and the identity you built around being awake. And that is coercive pressure. It's not believe this or we physically hurt you, coercive pressure. It's believe this or we socially punish you, and which is still coercion, which in your own words, is one of the things that the cults do. So I think Flat Earth ticks all the boxes for being a cult. It's not a normal cult that we understand in, that there's people in robes maybe drinking the Kool-Aid so they all go and sit on a comet after they die. It's a new age modern cult that was given the ability to exist by the internet. I mean, I generally think at this point, access to the internet, historically speaking, might have been a mistake, because it's allowed new age cults like Flat Earth to exist without the centralization of something like Scientology.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
All right, good job. You had 18 seconds left. All right, everybody clap for Craig. Everybody clap for Craig. Round of applause, round of applause. Thank you very much. Well done. Fantastic. I would again like to remind everybody, if you have any questions, make sure you tag me in them. I have been collecting them. They do exist. I will be asking them at the end once they get past their discussion period, because I don't want to interrupt them in the middle of their spiels. Chris, are you ready to do your rebuttal?
Sure.
All right, you got 10 minutes on the board. Go ahead.
Okay. See if I can fit all this in. There's a lot here. So basically what the argument here is, well, it's culty, so it's a cult. And I've already differentiated that there are about 4 or 5 different kinds of groups or activities that get culty. In other words, their behavior becomes more emotionally driven and extreme, but that doesn't mean it's a cult. And a destructive cult, of course, has very specific characteristics connected with it. First off, you mentioned behavioral control. And the fact of the matter is that the characteristics you described as behavior control, such as social pressures being applied to people to conform, to believe when they are on the fence or when they're going to leave, they start getting negative reactions. This is every single group that human beings put together. There isn't any group that doesn't meet those characteristics as you describe them. So social pressure alone is not enough of a control factor or conformity factor to call a group a cult. If somebody is involved in a sports club like a bowling league or a knitting circle, and they start talking about how maybe they don't like doing this so much anymore, or maybe this isn't the best thing to be doing, or maybe that other team is doing it better, of course they're going to hear negative reactions from their fellow team members who are going to have something to say about that. And sometimes they're going to get quite passionate about it if they're invested emotionally in the group. That doesn't make it a cult. That makes it a human group. We bring all of our emotions and our morality to every single thing that we do, and we attempt to influence other people around us, and we don't have to always label that influence as coercion when it's actually not. Now, in terms of decentralized movement, and this is actually really structurally one of the most important points, so I want to address this very specifically. The online activities that occur in decentralized movements are, again, great examples of people who are heavily emotionally invested in and firm believers, you could say, in what they're doing and in the activities and purposes of the group that they're part of, but lacking a specific and authoritative hierarchical structure means you don't have a cult. And you've had to sort of use language around this to go, yes, but, And I'm here to say there is no yes, but. If you don't have a central command authority and hierarchical structure, then you don't have a destructive cult. You have a group that is decentralized, that is acting a little culty. And again, cult is actually a word that is short for culture. And that's where it comes from. So every group has its own culture that it builds up. And some of those cultures can get a little riled up over their beliefs and ideas. But that doesn't necessarily make them a destructive cult as we've defined it. And also, as the BITE model suggests, the BITE model is a model, one of about 20 different cult models that exist, all of them very, very subjectively used, and all of them described in a way that is, look, this isn't diagnostic, this isn't black and white. You have to apply a lot of context and a lot of judgment to any individual group and the context in which it exists and operates. To look at people yelling and screaming, or look at people being very dedicated or excited about their activity and go, oh, look, cult, because they're jumping up and down, is a very unnuanced way of thinking about this. There is no monolithic belief set in flat Earth. There's no dogmatic, if you believe this, you're a flat earther, and if you don't believe this, you're not. Flat Earth actually existed for 100 years before the internet existed, because it's a group of people who are just sharing these ideas. However false those ideas are, they've been sharing them for a long time. The internet didn't help, but it's not the cause of flat Earth. In fact, in terms of the dogmatic authority structure of flat Earth, those old style flat earthers are controlled opposition to modern flat earthers. So even within the world of flat Earth, you have factioning of enemy against enemy. And that's a little hard to call that whole movement a cult when there is infighting to that degree. There is also, other than social pressures of frowny faces and name calling, no real system of discipline or enforcement of belief. If you go into a Church of Scientology and you start telling people that L. Ron Hubbard doesn't know what he's talking about, you are physically going to be taken into a room, sat down, put in front of an e-meter with cans in your hand, and interrogated quite specifically about the intimate details of your private life. And you are going to be forced to confess to whatever moral proclivities or crimes you've been committing because you're criticizing L. Ron Hubbard. There is nothing even remotely like that in the Flat Earth movement. There is no structure of control or discipline or justice in that system because the system is too loose and decentralized for that, making it a decentralized conspiratorial movement, not a destructive cult. Finally, on the topic of coercive control, and this is obviously super important to me because this is the point of my education, coercive control is really easily summarized as isolation, manipulation, and control. And it's a repeating pattern of abusive behavior towards another individual in a controlling fashion, which limits and binds their choices. Bounded choice by Dr. Janja Lalich is another cult model, where you're simply removing choices from a person's life so there is only a channel, not a choice. Flat Earth doesn't do that. Anybody is free within Flat Earth to think whatever they want, except for the social pressures that they might experience as a result. In a domestic violence or cult situation, you are not free to express or think what you want about a subject matter. And the repeating pattern of abusive behavior that occurs is not just some harsh words and not just some frowny faces. It is physical and psychological torture. It is gaslighting. It is financial control. It is relationship control. It is internet control. You are not allowed to see these words. You're not allowed to talk to these people. This does not occur in Flat Earth anywhere near the levels that it occurs in true destructive cults like Scientology or, say, Nexium. So it's a matter of degree, and those degrees are important when we're talking about something like coercive control. This is important. And then, yeah, those were the points I had. So I guess I'm done rebutting.
Hooray!
This is very strange talking to an intelligent person. I have no idea what's going on. Normally, I've just heard derp by now, but this dude's actually smart. I don't understand. What have you got me into here, Chesh?
Oh no! You asked for debates. I have provided debates, my friend. You said you wanted to talk to intelligent people. I brought you experts.
And I love it.
I am excited. I think both of you have brought up some really, really interesting points and things that I hadn't considered. Because I went into this debate thinking, like, you know what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this is going to land or where this is going to fall. And this gives me a lot to think about. And hopefully, and that's kind of the goal of these, is to give you guys things to think about also. You don't have to be convinced. You don't have to convince anybody else. Just if you bring up or find points that you found or something that you hadn't considered before, I'm going to go ahead and call this successful. So, if you're watching this in the future, or right now, or if you're in FTFE's chat, or if you're in my chat over on Debate Hub Official, leave a comment or let me know what your position was and what the opposing position's best argument or point was, in your opinion. Because I just want to know what you guys think, because that's fascinating to me, and I'm a nosy bitch. And then I'm going to use it to control you later. So, we now get another, this one is a little bit loose. This next part is a little bit loose on the amount of time that we have. Depends on how you guys feel about this. So I want to let you guys have more like back and forth Q&A directly with each other. So you could be like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? Hey, I'm not sure about this thing. I don't think this necessarily applies. Can you expound upon this thing? And let you guys go back and forth. I am going to keep keeping a rough check of the time. We're going to go for maximum maybe 20 minutes. If it peters out before that, that's totally fine. There are questions from the chat that we also have to go through. So we're going to check those out, but I am going to keep an eye on also how long your answers are. So if somebody asks a question that's going to be a long answer, just be like, hey, this is going to take me a minute, so bear with me, and I'll just keep an eye on to make sure somebody doesn't go off rambling for too long. Sound good?
Groovy.
Fantastic. Craig, you've been going first, so let's just...
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just before we get going, though, I just want to say thank you to everyone watching on both my channel and Debate Hub. Make sure you subscribe, you like, and all that fancy stuff as well. On Friday, I'm releasing 2 videos, one on Simon Dan's channel and one on my channel. If you would like to see early access to the Simon Dan video, which I've already produced, then do me a favor, smash that super chat goal, and tomorrow when I'm streaming at the end, I will play the video that's going to be released on Simon Dan's channel 2 days early. Good
idea. Clever. Smart. Do memberships. All right. Craig, you want to go first since we've been you going first the whole time?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate you being here. I just want to do a little bit of being pedantic to start with. You said the word cult comes from culture. Did I hear that right?
They both have the same root word.
Well, I thought, and in my research, I thought it came from the word cultivate rather than culture.
That's where the roots go back to. Cultus, Latin cultus from I think cultere.
Yeah. The word cult originally meant literally devotion or worship, right? So when I say that
that's one of the frames of its meaning, yeah.
Yeah. So when I say that Flat Earth is a cult, I'm not saying they'll live in robes in a cave. I'm saying the movement demands devotion to a belief. It protects that belief from evidence and punishes people who stop worshipping at the altar of Flat Earth. Now, not every Flat Earther believes the same thing, but the same cult think is in every different sect of Flat Earth. And, if we're going to talk about sects, I'm pretty sure Scientology has different sects in it. Am I right?
Different sects, sects, as in divisions within it.
Yes.
No, it doesn't. And in fact, that's one of the key characteristics of a destructive cult. Is it does not is it's a climate or culture of conformity, and so there's not a lot of diversity of opinion allowed within destructive cult systems. The leader said it. This is the truth. The thinking is done, right? We're all familiar with these kind of mantras. And thought-stopping cliches are the order of the day, of course. But the thing about destructive cults is destructive cults aren't the only place where culty stuff happens. And that's one of the things that gets like really confusing about this is degrees of behavior and also the structure of the group. And really my argument is a structural argument, not a behavioral one. If you lean only on behavior, then it's a pretty easy argument to make. Look how goofy they are. Look how goofy cults are. It's a cult. But structurally, Flat Earth doesn't make any sense as a destructive cult because of the points I've already made.
Well, in my research of for this debate, and after watching a bunch of your videos, I did a lot of research into Scientology, and I did find different sects like Free Zone Scientology, Independent Scientology,
but that's not all Scientology.
Ron's Org. They say they're Scientology, though.
Yes. But the Church of Scientology, see, there can be more than one destructive cult that uses a similar belief set, right? Every single Christian denomination is Christians, but they're wildly different. Some are culty and some are full-on destructive cults. It's very similar here. You can, just because the name is there doesn't mean the name equals cult. And when you have ex-members leave Scientology and go off and cherry pick their own individual version of Scientology, and they dump the justice system, they dump the ethics, they dump the control structures, well, now you have somebody using L. Ron Hubbard's ideas in the real world however he wants, or however this little group of people want. That's called independent Scientology. They are in no way, shape, or form connected with official Scientology. So we don't put them in the same. So we don't put them in the same category.
But you kind of have to, though, because they're in the same way that Christians, all the different sects of Christianity take their versions of their belief, of their interpretations of the Bible. Each of these different, the ones that have left the Church of Scientology and formed their own Scientology still say that they are Scientology. They might not be the Church of Scientology or official Scientology, but as far as they're concerned, they're still Scientology. So they're a sect within Scientology. They take what they think L. Ron Hubbard's true teachings are and accuse the Church of corrupting them. So,
but this reinforces my point, because the official Church of Scientology, the actual holder of the trademarks, service marks, and authorship of L. Ron Hubbard's, they actually own the stuff. That's the cult. The folks who leave and go off and do their own thing are leaving the cult and taking some of the beliefs with them. So to continue to call them official Scientologists, this is why the differentiation between Scientology and independent Scientology. It's really no different than Catholics versus evangelicals. They're both Christians, but wildly different from one another and behaviorally different from one another. And so the characteristics of the different groups changes, even if the belief set is called the same thing.
But still Scientologists. Like
they call themselves that, yes.
Yeah, just like you said, Catholics and evangelicals and all the different sects of Christianity, they still call themselves Christians, just like all of these different sects of Scientology. And my research found 11 that I could name, and they all claim that they are still Scientology. So within Scientology, there is different sects that all claim they are the true Scientology, but they're also all still cults. But
see, they're not all still cults, and that's where
they all match the bite model 100%.
No, they don't.
I think now that we've got time has rolled, so I want to let Chris then ask some questions to Craig.
Okay,
cool. What's the difference between a destructive cult and a decentralized conspiratorial movement?
A decentralized conspiratorial movement doesn't necessarily have destructive properties. Like all the people that are saying that chemtrails are real, It's very different to flat Earth because it doesn't take over your life. Flat Earth, in my experience, and I've spoken to 2,000 plus flat earthers, and so many of them, it destroys their lives. It takes over their lives. It is their entire being. It is everything that they are. It is everything that they want to be. It is the only thing they think about. It has destroyed their lives. So many flat earthers say that I gave up a job of 6 figures or something to spread flat earth because that's all that matters. That's the only truth. And I don't find any other conspiratorial movement doing that kind of thing. You don't find people, saying that they've given up their lives to tell people that chemtrails are real. But flat earth is different. Flat earth is a conspiratorial movement that is a cult at the same time because of what it does to people's life. But not every single person that thinks that that the earth is flat is that deep in it. But there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people where it has literally destroyed their lives because that is all that they want to do. They just want to spread the word of flat earth because that is the only belief that matters. Very much like in Scientology, that becomes the only thing that matters. The teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, the intricacies of the church, the ethics of the church, they are the only thing that matter. Outside stuff doesn't matter anymore. And
fair enough. So
yeah.
what does it look like in the real world if you were going to describe somebody joining flat earth and diving into this world of flat earth and giving up their job and their life for flat earth? What does that look like if we put a camera on that person?
David Weiss, Nathan Thompson.
And what does that look like?
Well, let's look at Nathan Thompson. It means that you will stand outside a school full of young children screaming.
Earlier. Back.
Yep.
Back during the conversion process. What's it look like?
Well, at first, what I find is usually at first they're into other conspiracies maybe, and then they get shown flat Earth, and initially they might reject it because it's that stupid. But once they don't understand something and they agree with one thing of flat earth, all logic and reason and sanity just go out of the window and they go all in, and it's the only thing they can think about. And now, because they know that the whole world has lied to them, not just a few people, but every single person in the world has lied to them their entire life, that becomes their entire identity. Then you look at someone like Nathan Thompson that will stand outside a school, scream at the kids that the school is lying to them, so much so that I'm watching his live stream and I have to phone the police because I think he's a danger to these kids. And that is why, yes, flat earth is a conspiratorial movement, but it's also a cult, because it's the only conspiratorial movement that has these attributes that you get with cults, where it becomes your entire life, so much so that even authority doesn't matter to you outside of the cult anymore. It's just
I'm going to have to push back on that pretty hard, because what do you call somebody who riots over a sports game loss? That's pretty extreme.
You mean just
behavior,
Montreal, the whole city?
Yeah,
I mean, did they all become a cult all of a sudden because they're cheering for their team and now they're engaging in violent, irrational behavior?
But with the sports, people that riot because of sports, the next day they still get up, kiss their wife, and go to work. Whereas
so
flat
earthers,
no, they don't. There is some that literally don't. One of the very first flat earthers that I debated on the Non Sequitur show, because of his flat earth, he'd left his wife because she wouldn't believe in flat earth. He'd lost his family, he'd lost his job, he was literally living in a storage unit because of flat earth. And you don't find that with people that are rioting because their team lost at sports ball. All right, that's going to be at the moment, in the moment when they're doing it, they're not thinking rationally, and that's normally because they're also drunk, which can alter the way that you think and act in a certain moment. But the next day, they're still going to get up. They're going to go to work. They're going to be like, oh, what the hell did I just do last night? I'm going to be on the TV. Whereas flat earthers will get up the next day and say, I don't care. I'm still flat earth.
But when I asked earlier about what does it look like, we didn't really get a real answer to that question. So let me throw a few more specifics at that.
Okay.
Would you say that it tends to look an awful lot like somebody sitting at their computer?
Partly, not entirely.
Partly? Are there
Yeah.
any real world meetups that people go to?
Yes.
How often?
Well, for 5 years, there was the Flat Earth International Conference. Mark Sargent posts nearly every month about Flat Earth meetups, wherever they are. There is Flat Earth meetups all of the time. It is a regular thing that they do. You generally know because the gravitational effects of that area get extremely strong because of the amount of density in one place.
Sure. I was at the 2018 convention. It was quite the experience.
You were at the 2018 Flat Earth convention?
They had it here in Denver.
Oh my goodness! How from the debate? How was that? Because I've never had the privilege of being one.
3 days of flat Earth immersion.
We need FTFE to host Craig over on FTFE's channel to have that interview conversation because I bet there's stories.
Fascinating, but here's the thing. One of the things that those 3 days showed me, right, very, very clearly, was the non-monolithic nature of the movement itself, the variety of beliefs within the system. There is a great deal of biblical literalism. I'd say, for my experience, it was easily over 90% of the members were there for religious reasons. But there was a whole other room where the atheists met up. We're the atheist flat earthers. We're not here because of the reason those guys are here. And it was a whole different division. And I found that fascinating. Lots of common ground, lots of pseudoscience, and yet wildly different belief bases for following along with this. Now, here's what you don't see when flat earth is happening, when somebody's being recruited into flat earth, as they say, or falling down the flat earth rabbit hole, is people showing up at their house. Hey, did you hear about flat earth? Let me tell you about flat earth. And then consuming hours and hours and hours of this person's time, manipulating them, triggering them, gaslighting them, pushing them, coercively controlling them, in other words, into a belief set or situation from which they cannot escape because they didn't even realize they were being led into it. Flat earth, and at least my understanding of flat earth, is it is almost 100% a self-recruitment process. And self-recruitment and self-radicalization is not coercive control.
Well, I'm going to have to push back on that because there are the leaders of Flat Earth, like David Weiss, Flat Earth Dave, and Nathan Thompson, that their entire business is going and forcing the Flat Earth belief on you. Nathan Thompson spends every single day of his life walking about the streets, standing outside churches, giving flyers to children, and then screaming at them about how the earth is flat. He might not go to people's houses, probably because of some kind of, legal thing that he's not allowed near houses or something. But it's very similar to knocking on your door and saying, have you heard about the word of Xenu? That is what they're doing. Yes, a lot of it, I'm not going to deny, maybe the majority of Flat Earth is because they saw something online and then looked more into it. But there is the aspect of there is the aspect of people out in the street actively trying to recruit others to be flat earthers. That is a major part of the modern flat earth movement.
Perhaps I wasn't clear in in what I meant when I say that people show up at your door. Proselytizing on the street is not coercive control. It's proselytization. And if you yell at school kids out on a corner, that makes you an idiot and a little bit of a jerk, but it doesn't make you a cult member. So it's a little non sequitur, right? What I was trying to get to is the fact that when you join a cult, you're joining a society of people who have things they do as part of their cult practices that are formalized structural things. They are not loosey-goosey individual ideas the person has. Oh, I know what'll convert this guy. It's dogmatic, in other words. And there is no dogma in Flat Earth of at least not that I ever saw, I never saw recruitment drills or training or processing or seminars on how to make new flat earthers. There's very little formal structure or organization to this group. Frankly, it was pretty amazing to watch them put on a convention because these were some pretty interestingly incompetent people. So it was quite something to actually watch that much happen. And of course, during the course of, I'm sure you might have seen this too. When I say incompetent, I mean projectors breaking down and things just not working.
Oh, I imagine there was tech issues galore. People not turning up at the right times, doors locked, and no one had the key. I imagine it was one of the worst organized things in existence. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And the
majority of flat earthers are fucking idiots.
Exactly. And the other thing that's missing out of this is, again, because it's decentralized, there's no financing, there's no structure for finance or money or accumulation of influence or power beyond social media clicks and likes. And without a formal system of that and enforcement of it, again, it's really hard to argue that you're talking about a destructive cult. Versus, again, there's this mushing together of these structural things which I'm trying to differentiate. Decentralized online movement and destructive cult are not the same thing. And so I just don't feel like I'm being met on that point at all. But it's an important point.
My pushback on that is that Flat Earth is destructive, more so than every other conspiratorial online movement. I wouldn't describe chemtrail believers or 9/11
themselves, though. That's the problem, though, is they're doing
it. They do it to others as well. Like you will have people join the Flat Earth groups. Like Nathan Thompson will get his little minions. But then the second they disagree with him, he will punish them socially, financially. He will kick them out of his RV. There may not be just one cult in Flat Earth. Maybe there's multiple Flat Earth cults because they have what we call Flat Earth Papa flurfs. You've got Nathan. You've got the Nathan Oakley cult. You've got the David Weiss cult. You've got the Eric Dubay cult.
This becomes more like QAnon now, right? With the translators. You have within groups, you often have, like for example, in the evangelical community, you have this, right? You don't get to call all Christianity a cult. You don't get to call all evangelicals a cult. But you do get down to the individual church or parish or, congregation, and you get a guy at the top or a woman at the top or a leadership structure, and they start creating that coercive, dogmatic, structural cult. And that could become either a cult or even more specifically, a cult of personality around an individual. And thought leaders will sometimes do that. That is one of the things we saw happen with QAnon as well. When it started, and then it factioned off and broke up. But before that, there were these thought leaders. But thought leaders are not the same thing as a full-on cult leader. There's a big difference, right, in terms of how much money they're getting, how much influence and power they have, and how much control they're able to wield over their followers. What you're looking for is codependency. And there is not a lot of that in Flat Earth compared to, say, Scientology.
See, I'm going to push back on that quite hard. I think that
I'll let you push back, and then I'm going to cut us off. All right? Let you push off.
Right, let me just...
Yeah. You say your bit, but time up. Go ahead.
Within Flat Earth, I definitely think there is codependency. There is the parasocial relationships that are entirely codependent that have been created because they hold this ridiculous belief.
You're talking about thought leaders?
Not just thought leaders, but people that will literally try and run an organization around Flat Earth, like David Weiss and his Flat Earth app. You buy into his app, you buy into this structure of Flat Earth that has the literal instructions of how to be a Flat Earther and how to not be a glober. Are there Weiss Earthers? Are there people who are like, this guy is the guy? Yeah, there is. Many people would say that David Weiss is the reason they are flat earthers, and anything that David Weiss says, no matter how ridiculous and obvious it's a lie, will swear to the world that it is the absolute truth because David Weiss said it. It's the same. If
Does he
Nathan
ever
Oakley,
meet with
no
these
matter how
people?
many times. Oh yeah, he has meetings up with them all the time. Nathan Oakley, where he will get people all around the world screaming his mantra of the earth is measured flat because Nathan Oakley said it.
Sure. So I will allow, or I'll certainly concede that there could be cults of personality around certain individuals, but that's a very different thing from structural, like a full-on structural cult.
Yeah.
Saying the entire thing is a cult, right? That would be a very different thing.
So
I just think in the world that we live in now, the definition of cult has become more malleable.
Yeah, and I don't. That's why I came here today, because I don't. There are very specific characteristics that need to be present in order for a group to be a destructive cult. Otherwise, everything's a cult and nothing is a cult, right? It becomes too broad, and that's why I came today.
Questions from the chat. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, I just want to say, Chris, I very much appreciate having a conversation with you. I love speaking to smart people because I learn new things.
This is such a good conversation.
Thank you. I agree. I didn't know what to expect, but I appreciate the.
Just from talking to you, I have learned some new thoughts on how to define a cult. I still think that Flat Earth meets the criteria for being a cult, but it's certainly given me more things to think about in the realms of what a cult is and how to describe a cult. And I very much appreciate your expertise.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Orange
Dot, who's a member. Why is chain of command so important in the definition for a cult? Is a question for Chris.
Because it's a part of the rigid hierarchical system necessary in order to exert the degree of control required in order for it to fit the definition of a destructive cult. It can't just be a passive organization making suggestions at you. There has to be rigid systems of authority and control in order for the mechanisms of control to actually work. So that's why.
Basal Problem is asking FTFE, are you also an expert on cults since you're already a physicist and a nuclear engineer?
No, I'm not an expert on cults, and I've never said that I'm an expert on cults. I'm impressed, Basal Problem, that you didn't ask a question about me wearing Fred Perry. Thank you for advancing in your stupidity. Good job. In case you're wondering, Chris, Basal Problem is a flat earther that very much dislikes me and dislikes the fact that I have an obsession with wearing Fred Perry.
That's hilarious.
Orange Dot also asked, is Chris okay with people calling Flat Earth a cult in a colloquial way?
I'm the guy who's going to correct you because I'm Mr. Semantics, right? But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. People are going to.
You're not going to burn a bridge over it. Yeah. Also,
I'm not going to try to control your language. Let's put it that way.
Fits of Rage is also asking for Chris, what is one or two criteria for cult that you would say Flat Earth most falls short of?
There's no hyper focus on centralized collection streams of money to a centralized and determined leadership. There is money thrown around, but not anything remotely like Scientology, the Moonies, NXIVM.
So
it's not even in the same class of thing. There's also
the organization and the finances.
So financial is one of the characteristics we often look at. It doesn't have to be there, but it's often there. If it's not money, it's sex or power or influence. And very, very, very little of that happens within the Flat Earth world. I mean, there is no influence that Flat Earth buys you in the outside world, right? So, being at the top of the Flat Earth chain is, not exactly like power central. And it doesn't guarantee you income, sex, power, anything like that, really. And let's see, one of the other ones would be that there is no uniformity of dress, custom, manner, appearance, behavior. There really isn't a uniform.
I don't know, they all wear the stupid Flat Earth t-shirts, that's for sure.
Yeah, but no, you don't have to wear it, right? Like, In the Sea Org and in Scientology, you have uniforms. You have like, and again, it's a culture of conformity. And the degree of conformity in flat Earth is so malleable, is so loosey-goosey compared to a strict system like Nexium or Scientology that I struggle to see them as the same thing.
Dapper Dinosaur asked for Chris specifically, and I have to say these exact words: where is flat Earth belief on the tone scale? He thinks I don't know what that is.
Wow.
That's an inside joke you don't actually have to answer. Big Fish.
Fair enough.
Just because I like
It's
giving
all
Dapper
over
a
the
hard
tone
time
scale.
back.
I was like, okay.
Big Fish asked, does Chris witness the coercive control inflicted by flat earthers on people that leave flat Earth by the way of death threats, doxing, and contact with family and work, etc.?
No, because that's not coercive control. That's backlash and vengeance. Coercive control is isolation, manipulation, and control. It's what they're doing to you before you realize what they're doing to you. You're very hyper aware of being shunned. Being shunned,
Right,
kicked
okay.
out, disconnected. That's the vengeance. And that's the act of consequences because of your betrayal. Again, any human group anywhere does that. From a domestic couple to, you know, a 1,000-man university, right? I mean, any group is going to feel angry towards those who are disloyal or betray the group.
Babotun asked for both of you, should we interact and interface with flat earthers differently than a full-blown centralized cult, both on an individual and a collective level? I'm going to let Craig go first, since Chris has been going for a bit. Craig, what do you think?
Repeat the question.
How should people interact and interface with flat earthers? If they're not a cult, or if they are a cult, should they be treated differently?
Whether they're a cult or not, interacting with flat earthers is important because countering misinformation is important. It's a cult that pushes stupidity, in my opinion. It's a cult that thrives on misinformation and lies, even if they claim that they're neither of those things. So whether or not flat Earth is a cult, interacting with them should be done in the same way. You should counter the misinformation and mock them relentlessly for being the internet's pet rock.
I would say use street epistemology, but you know, what do I know?
Street epistemology. Could you imagine?
Yeah, but there's a problem with that, Chris. That word has more than 2 syllables and it would confuse the flat earthers.
Well, you don't have to tell them that's what you're doing. See, it's just that street epistemology is a wonderful system of asking questions and inquiring about belief in order to perhaps destabilize the belief, but certainly get the person to examine their belief much more closely than they usually let themselves. And it's a great system for that. And it's really just Socratic questioning. So it's a great way to deal with people in the flat Earth world. When I've interacted with them, I've used that, and it's been helpful.
I am going to go ahead and repost the question to everybody as we're getting close to wrapping up. We've got a couple more questions and then we'll be done. But I wanted to repost the poll to give people an opportunity to revote. Do you think flat Earth is a cult now that the debate is over? PS Squall or Pusquall or Pisquall, I don't know how you pronounce your name, let me know. Question for FTFE: can flat Earth be really called a cult if there is that much infighting even between most prominent flat earthers? It doesn't seem like a coherent community.
Yes, I still think it follows the bite model of being a cult. It controls you, it coerces you, it can be destructive. Just because they don't all necessarily completely agree on exactly the same thing. And like I said to Chris, I think maybe it's worth defining the different, that there is different cults of flat Earth. There is the Oakleyeites, the Dubaiites, the Weiss idiots. Maybe there is not just one flat Earth cult. There is a multitude of flat Earth cults. But each of them, when you go through the bite model, which is the most sensible way to determine if something is a cult or not, it ticks all the boxes.
I got Let me just say real fast, the bite model is not the most effective way to determine whether a group is a cult or not.
Okay, what
It's
would you
one
say is
of
the most
many
effective?
models that exist, but as somebody who really knows this topic, I gotta say, it's a wonderful tool for lay people. If I use that term, right? Because it's not like cults is some like, serious thing. But the bite model is a very loose model, and it is very subjective. So it really requires a lot of contextual analysis of a group, and the bite model just it's really good for ex-members. That's how the bite model was developed, right? Was like, let's look at what you went through so that we can clarify and you can understand what was done to you. But it has its faults when it comes as a diagnostic tool.
What would you say, Chris, is the most effective model for determining what is a cult?
Well, I really like Janja Lalich's approach because she talks about centralized leadership, but it's the bounded choice model because it really, really points out in a different way, similar, right? Bite is based on an earlier model as well, by the way. There's, like I said, there's about 20 of them. There are about, there are a dime a dozen models are, but the bounded choice model is really good because it really hones in on
the bounded choice model.
On the fact that you don't have choices. They are being taken from you, stripped from you as you descend into the membership of the group. And it becomes a matter of, she doesn't put it this way, I do, when I say it becomes a matter of channels, not choices. Your life stops having choices. And it's such a gradual process, you generally don't realize it's happening.
One of the things about me is I don't mind being wrong and changing my opinion on things. Like when I spoke to Kip, and now I agree that the Bible is more a flat Earth book than not. Speaking to you, it has made me reevaluate some of the positions I hold. I still think that based on the bite model, it would be a cult, but maybe I need to look a bit more into the other models and see how it compares to that.
I'd be very interested to hear what you think after you do that.
Maybe we'll come back and host another debate, or maybe we'll just host a discussion and let the two of them chat it out, because I'm up for that kind of stuff. We should start looking at wrapping up. I know Chris has got to go soon, and I don't want to eat up too much of everybody's time. And the last two questions were from Dapper anyway, and fuck him. So,
don't you be mean to my game daddy.
Oh, that's because you didn't want to play in my game, coward.
Well, that's because I was dealing with two deaths in the family and my brain wasn't switched on.
No, valid. You didn't have to do me like that, but okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Craig, do you have super chats to read?
Yes, I do. Real Jekyll Cones for $2 says, I vow to never super cat you. Meow. Oh, that was actually a super hat, so you need to try again. Rosie says for $2, Flat Earth is a screening tool. It's getting the gullible, basically, is what they're saying. Yeah. The Turtle moves for £5. All Flat Earth leaders are cults, or something like that. Real Harnold for $5 says Scientology has a specific term for those who reteach Hubbard's nonsense outside of the official church. Squirrels. The sects are not Scientology. I agree that Scientology, the Church of Scientology, would say that they're not Scientology,
right?
Yeah.
But they say they're Scientology, very much like anyone outside of certain Christian sects would say, oh, they're not real Christians, but they still say they're real Christians.
Yeah.
But the question with the independence becomes the fact that they cherry pick it and they actually turn Scientology into something that isn't as culty. And that's the kind of interesting thing about it, because then you have to ask, well, is it really Scientology or is it something else? L. Ron Hubbard specifically would have said and wrote very clearly, those people are not Scientologists. They're off the goddamn rails. So is self-identification enough, or are the founders' words useful in any way in parsing this out? You know what I mean? It's a wild kind of a situation.
Yeah, it's very much like with Christianity, and many of them will cherry pick certain aspects of the Bible. Right. Even some will use certain books that others say are not in the Bible and things like that. You know,
that's right.
But they all say that they are Christians. And that's kind of where my point comes.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because some brands of Christianity are fucking as culty as they get, right?
But right, Mormonism's batshit crazy.
But then right next door is the Unitarians, and they're Christians, and they're fine, right? So you're like, what the hell's going on here? So it's that's why I say its context is everything when determining whether a group is a cult or not. The label isn't enough. The beliefs being crazy isn't enough. It's what they do with those beliefs and how they behave towards each other. And structurally, is there a system of control in place? Or like with Flat Earth, is it sort of more of an organic process of decentralized peer pressure, which is just not solid enough to be a destructive cult? My final.
Jim Daniels for £5 says Michael Allen versus Canadian Space Agency is a good example. Yes, that's fun. 3Ron, who's been a member for 38 months, says this guy is incompetent about the Flat Earth cult. It's the first online cult. They do have practices and mantras. It's just not a conventional cult. I wouldn't say that Chris is incompetent in any way. He's clearly an expert in this subject, much more so than I am. I just think that what you said is right. It's maybe the first online cult. It has developed into something that it wasn't before, which I think can be classed as a cult based on my layman's understanding of what a cult is. But I am always willing and happy to be wrong, because that means I've learned something. Real Jiffy Cones for $2 says, let's smash that goal. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Dr. Apocalypse for $2. Have a litre of fuel on me. That ain't going to be a litre, dude. Come on. You seen what Trump did to the prices? Rachbot for $2 says, hashtag feed Rubik's, please. Look, I gave Rubik's some moldy bread yesterday, okay? They're happy. Well, they're not crying anymore, at least. Chris, what do you do with the captives in your basement?
What do I think of the captives in my basement?
Yeah, well, how do you feed them regularly? Do you change their bucket when they cry, or?
This is the only guy I've got in my basement.
Oh,
why are you keeping that doggo in your basement?
I feed him regularly, yeah.
Jay Gill's been a member for 7 months, says, great debate, thanks. Yes. Chris, this has been an absolutely brilliant debate that I've loved. Bill Tetley, member for 34 months, says, almost 3 years here suffering stupidity, and I appreciate you suffering the stupidity with me. Bill Tetley for $2 says, super shat from a super cat. Dirt says for $2, what would they be categorized as then? Well,
categorized.
I would categorize Flat Earth as cults. Chris, how would you categorize Flat Earth?
How would I categorize it?
Yeah.
Decentralized conspiratorial movement.
Okay, yep. Can it be both?
No.
Okay.
That's the whole point of why I came today. It's not, they're not the same thing.
It's Rubik's for $2 says, I belong to the cult of Craig. I am not a cult leader, goddammit. A real Harnold for $2 says, there should be a term for whatever Flat Earth is. Yeah, fucking stupid is the term. All
right, I really got to go, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it.
Make sure you go check out his book. Links are in the description down below. Go check that out. Go subscribe to him. His ats are in and around, and go click on that. Check that out. For fan funding, we got FTFE for 2 said, shut up, Chesh. Sorry. Basil, we already went over. Zell became a member at Amateur Debater. Thank you so much. They gifted 5 memberships. Greatly appreciated. Real Narhold. Damn it! Now it's all messed up. Real Narhold said, the Scientology's dogma and system of control designed by the brilliant asshole Hubbard is delivered very and enforced very consistently. Flat Earth lacks that. And Orange said, good job moderating. Chesh, thank you so much for joining us. Wave, Craig.